His name is Brett Cross. And certainly it's very sad for me to even have to bring up the Uvalde shooting, where so many innocent young children had lost their lives. And his story, sadly, is very similar to a lot of other stories where so many lose their loved ones and their children, where they drop them off at school and then they never see them again. And it absolutely breaks my heart. He is the parent of Uzziah Garcia, who lost his life in the school shooting at Uvalde. And Brett is nice enough to join us now. Brett, it's really good to see you, my friend. I'm so sorry for what you and your family have had to go through, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show. Brett, how are you, sir?
I'm doing, another day, another shooting, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine, Brett, every single time you hear about one of these shootings, you think about your son and you think about what your family has had to go through, right? I would imagine.
Oh, 100%. And it goes even deeper than that, because when I hear about these things, the time is really weird, because I sit there and I'm like, okay, it's been 2 hours. Okay, now they're starting to notify parents, because our shooting took place at 11:33. We weren't told until 8 o'clock that night. So as the news is coming out and spreading to everybody, there are parents that still don't know that their child is no longer here with us.
And you had to go through that as well. I wouldn't want anybody to have to go through what you and your family have had to go through. Before I get to these latest shootings that took place, I can't imagine how you feel about this, but I remember the days after Uvalde, even the day of, that the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott, who I think is a despicable human being, did not cancel a campaign event where he was counting money that night, correct me if I'm wrong, when they didn't even count all the bodies in the school, right? I mean, crazy.
Yeah, and to be fair, like this is the same guy that got on national news and told us that at that time that there were 14 students dead, while we still hadn't even found out. The school wasn't telling us anything. The police at the civic center that we were at weren't telling us anything, and we hear about it on Facebook of all places. And you look around, and you're seeing, you're like, okay, there's about 14, 15, 16 families here, so maybe we're the lucky ones. And yeah, he just turned around and said, oh, it could have been worse.
Yeah, I remember when he said that, just like, right, Brett, when Donald Trump the other day said these things happen. I mean, It's like there's no compassion. And then Ted Cruz shows up doing interviews with the media, said, why wasn't the back door locked? As if a locked door would deter somebody with an AR, right, 15, from shooting the door down. I mean, I don't understand it.
No, it's because this is what they do so that they can try to do anything except to make it harder to access these weapons, because it's a vicious circle. Children lose their lives, the school is shot up, and then the NRA comes out and says, oh, they're about to take all of your guns, so go out and buy more. So then consumers go out and buy more. And so the NRA has more money to give to these politicians who keep this deadly cycle going. They don't care about the doors. They don't care about anything. If they looked at the statistics and the facts, we are more likely to solve this issue. Not solve it, but risk mitigation so much if we would just implement common sense gun reform, as opposed to, I hear it all the time, we want to put armed guards. Well, there were 376 officers at Uvalde. They sat outside for 77 minutes. They didn't do anything. There were 4 officers on scene before he even walked in. Every single school mass shooting that has happened in the last 15 years has had an armed guard on campus. They do not stop them. They do not prevent them.
And you remember Scott Peterson in the Parkland shooting, very similar circumstance, cowardly behavior. There's no question about that. And, I think of solutions every single day, because unlike Mag, and I'm sure you do as well, you and Nikki, you guys are activists and you do it in your son's name. And I think it's so brave what you guys do. And, Fred Gutenberg is a personal friend of mine. He does this show a lot. He lost his daughter in Parkland. Sadly, you guys have that in common, but you both share that bond of doing things in your child's name. And, I think the age should be 18 to 21. I think these assault weapons should be banned. Period. I think we need to do more about mental illness. If you have to drive a car and get your driver's license, they check your health. You have to get a driver's license. You have to take a physical test, a mental, you name it. Why shouldn't we do the same thing when it comes to weapons? And then what I hear from people is, well, driving a car is a privilege. Owning a weapon is a right. And it's like they have no solutions, right, Brett? They have no solutions except they think more weapons are the answer, which is absurd.
Well, so I mean, yes, exactly, and that's the thing is they will tout the mental health. This is one I hear all the time. It's mental health. It's only mental health, right? So then why do these individuals keep voting in politicians that vote against mental health funding?
Mhm.
And they do that on purpose, right? So if we keep the mental health boogeyman there and we never address it, then we can continue to blame it on it, and we do not have to blame the guns.
Yeah.
And you know, when they talk about it's a right, I host lives every day talking about this. Every single person that comes up and tells me that it's my right, it's my Second Amendment, just ask them to tell you the 27 words that are in the Second Amendment, because I guarantee you they can't. They take the last half and you know, idolize that part, you know, forgetting sixth grade grammar lessons and
Mm.
everything. And then they want to bring up like DCV Heller, and they can't even tell you that Antonin Scalia wrote the opinion piece on that and even contradicts himself, saying that he went against 200 years of precedent to write it the way that he wanted to.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point you bring up. If you're just joining us, by the way, he is Brett Cross. Sadly, he lost his son Uzziah Garcia in the shooting in Uvalde, and he's joining us right now. You know, I talk about these topics almost, it seems like, on a daily basis. As you know, Brett, we had one of the largest mass shootings, I think the largest in American history, right here, the October 1 shooting in Las Vegas. And I personally know somebody that was shot in that shooting, and it's just I just don't understand where MAGA Republicans will bring up thoughts and prayers every single time we have this horrible tragedy, like what happened to your son. But yet they want to focus, Brett, on banning books, and they want to
Mhm.
attack drag queens, and they want to go to the culture wars instead of actually talking about the real issues that American people are facing, right? The economy, losing their jobs, losing their livelihood, maternity leave, not giving women the right to choose, and of course, the violence in this country with weapons that are being used. Why do you think that is, Brett? Why do you think they don't want to really talk to people like you?
Because it makes them money, right? Like I said, if we don't do anything about the guns, there's what 330 million people in America, give or take, and we have 1.2 guns per person, you know, and it's just continuously growing, and we do that because of, you know, this BS rhetoric that, oh, it's a right, and we're not teaching the facts. And I mean, this is why Trump said that he likes the poorly educated, right? Because you can get sheep to follow, right? Instead of listening to actual sense and statistics and facts, they choose to go against books that, you know, the last time I heard, I've never seen a book kill 21 people in a school. I've never seen a drag queen kill 21 people in a school. In fact, a drag queen stopped the Club Q shooting. The good
Correct.
guys with the guns didn't, you know. So it's they like to take things that are I don't know how to put this, but like hate charged, right?
Mm-hmm.
And stuff
Sure.
that they don't have to have facts on, because
Right.
every single day they'll blame the LGBTQIA community or the drag community on trying to going against kids. But you cannot turn the news on without seeing a preacher or a Republican in trouble for going after
Yeah.
children. So
Sure.
it's just
Sure.
wild.
I wanted to ask you, Brett, if you had, and I don't know if you've ever had this opportunity to speak with Governor Abbott privately, but if you had the opportunity to speak with him privately with maybe a Donald Trump and with maybe a group of these MAGA Republicans that don't seem to want to do anything when it comes to all the violence with weapons in this country, I'm curious at this stage, Brett, what you and maybe Nikki would say to him if you had the opportunity in private.
So I've had a private conversation with him. He came down, I think it was like 4 months afterwards,
Mm.
and all he wanted to do was talk about the border. I don't
Oh,
even think he knew what he
oh my,
was here for. Yeah,
oh
no,
my, oh, I
and
can't.
and
That gets me
yeah,
so angry. I'm sorry, Brett. Go ahead.
no, yeah, no, exactly right. And so, you know, we started talking about this. We're like, hey, can we raise the age or whatever? You know, like I have ideas. You know, universal background checks, red flag laws, safe storage laws, all of these things that could help, where another parent doesn't have to pick out which cartoon character goes on their child's casket. And he was just like, oh, well, the border. Oh, well, they did Santa Fe with a shotgun, so this wouldn't have helped. And I'm like, yeah, everything else that I said would have. And then I told him, I said, can you name any of the students that were here? Like you're coming down here, you should at least know their names, right? Couldn't. I said, can you even name my child's name? No. So he doesn't even care enough to get briefed on who he's talking to, what child lost their life, what parent of a child that lost their life that he's talking to.
Oh my God. I didn't know any of that stuff. That gets me even more angry and emotional when I hear about this. You're telling me 4 months, by the way. I mean, first of all, let's just call that for what it is. It took him 4 months to meet the families of those who lost their children. First of all, it should have taken no more than a day. Get the information in a day. And then, I mean, first of all, the fact that it took him 4 months to do that speaks to the despicable human being that he is. And then number two, why the hell is he talking about the border? Why would he talk? You think that these family members give a crap right now about the border? They lost their kids. They want to talk about gun control. They want to talk about, we don't, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Brett. We don't want another family to have to go through what we're going through, right?
100%. And that's the thing. Like I even told him, I'm like, well, it wasn't an undocumented immigrant that killed my child. It was a 18-year-old kid who had just turned 18 a few days prior, but he didn't care. Right. Like he didn't care. And I think that he brought up the whole border thing because here in Uvalde, it is like 85% Hispanic, and which is wild of an assumption of him to think that people are undocumented here. It's just his racism and his bigotry that comes to show, because even then, you know, he talks about mental health when it comes to guns, except months before Uvalde happened, he pulled $112 million from the Health and Human Services Fund, which is our mental health funding here in Texas, and sent it to Operation Lone Star, which is his border BS.
You know, your son never had a chance. He never had a chance. And I'm sorry, I know this is very emotional for you, but this is very difficult, you know, to talk about. He never had a chance. This country failed him. And the leaders in Washington, D.C. failed him. Now, listen, I don't blame every politician. Joe Biden's, in my opinion, he's Barack Obama. The Democrats, you know, I criticize the Democrats a lot, Brett, but I am not going to criticize them for this. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Democrats are the ones that keep talking about this. They keep wanting to do something. They keep wanting to bring Republicans at the table to come up with some laws that will save lives. It won't save everything. Maybe it wouldn't have saved your son, but it could have. And they don't want to. And what do you make when you see somebody like a Lauren Boebert, Brett, on a Christmas photo with like 3-year-olds and 5-year-olds holding weapons in their hands? I mean, it makes me want to vomit when I hear stuff, when I see stuff like that. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of things, right? Like one, why doesn't she care about her kids? You know, as a parent, your only job should be making sure that they are loved and are raised to the best of your ability. You know, you are supposed to protect them, you know, and when you're just giving out young kids firearms and everything, and I know she's not trained, so I know her kids are not trained.
Right.
It's just wild. Now you're putting it into the hands of children who think, oh, it's okay to just walk around with guns. You know, these are the people that grow up and do these types of acts, you know. And it's baffling to me. And then like at Christmas, right? Because, you know, I'm not a religious person, but if you're putting this on a Christmas card, you are a religious person.
You're sick.
You know?
Yeah, you're sick. I mean,
Yeah.
these are sick people. There are religious people that would never do that. But I think you have to be a sick human being to take a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old or any child for that matter and have them hold a weapon in a Christmas photo. We have an infatuation with weapons in this country. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I do want to talk about the activism that you and Nikki have done in your son's name, which again, I think is just so brave and honoring your child. Talk about how people can get involved. What do you want to see from people? You know, there are some people that are sick that are, of course, not on your side. But I'd like to think that most of America is. What do you want to see more from them? And what do you want to see them doing in order to help?
Right. So, I mean, I have my nonprofit. It is Rise for You. You can find it at riseforyou.net. And if you don't know what to do, so when people think about helping and everything, they think financially first and foremost. But that is not the only way of contributing, right? Sharing Uzziah's story, you know, we do this a lot. Watch the documentary that we put out. Our organization put together the whole shooting from body cam footage from the police, so you can see that the inactiveness that was done. You sit there for 77 minutes and watch. What's going on in that classroom, and you're seeing it from the body cam footage of the actual cops. Watch that. Call your representatives. Tell them that they might not care that if their children are shot and killed, but you care about yours. You don't want that. Call your representatives. And I know that it might seem like a crazy task or anything, but it is really simple. I put out scripts that you can read. We often give numbers to. Also, theshotline.org, which was created by Manuel Oliver, who lost his son Joaquin in Parkland. They used AI to recreate our children's voice to call to Congress.
That's powerful. Wow.
100%. It's hard to listen to. And it takes like 7 seconds. You put in your zip code, you pick the voice of the child that lost their life that you want to send to Congress, and then you pick your representative and you send it. And they have to, the people in that office have to listen and write down every single time. So if they don't listen to us, they need to listen to our kids.
I think that's a really good idea. And I know in a lot of these interviews that you have done, you talk about your son and how he should be remembered. I'm going to ask you a different question, maybe, because, I lost my sister a couple of years ago, and we've all lost loved ones, and we still hear them, in our heart and in our mind. At least I hear her. And I guess that's the question I wanted to ask you. When you're doing these things, maybe on a daily basis, I would imagine you hear your son, you hear him talking, and he's speaking to you. And I'm just curious, like, what do you hear from him when you're doing this stuff? What do you think he would say? And what do you hear from him?
What words am I allowed to say on here?
Obviously we can't swear because we're on radio, but do the best you can. And
yeah, he would say, kick their butt, Dad. Like, because he was the one, he would always, he wanted to be a cop because he wanted, in his words, he said, I want to help people the way that y'all help me. And he was the kid that would come in and just do anything in his power to take your frown away, whether it be funny faces or noises or anything. Like, he did not like seeing people sad. And he just truly wanted to help people, but he was also my child. So he was rough and rowdy and everything, so people always tell me, because I curse a lot and because, I don't speak like the politicians. I tried that. The politicians don't listen. So now you just get Dad. And he would be proud of that. He would be happy about that. And he would stand right alongside with me, if not trying to get in front of me to save lives. Wow. So I think he would say, kick their butt.
Sounds like he was a very courageous young man, and he has some courageous parents. Brett, I have so much respect for you and Nikki and what you guys are doing, because you are literally saving lives in your son's name. And I just have so much respect for you. I would love for you to come back and do whatever I can to help you guys and what you do with your activism and stuff. It's really incredible. So I just want you to know there's so many people listening right now that appreciate you. And we're so sorry for what you and your family have had to endure. I wouldn't wish this upon anybody, but in your son's name, let's keep the fight up. Let's keep doing what we're doing. And I really appreciate you, Brett, for coming on. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you. Any chance I get to talk about Uzziah and try to save lives, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. You're welcome on this show anytime, my friend. Thank you so much for the time, Brett. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. That's Brett Cross, everybody. Man, if that doesn't get you choked up, I don't know what will. That's just I don't know what's going on in this country. And I don't know. Sorry, I'm just I don't know what type of country we're living in today, where a bunch of 8 and 9-year-old kids could lose their life in a school, and we don't do anything about it. Sounds to me like this was a wonderful young man who was tough. I'm sorry. It just breaks my heart, man. It breaks my heart every time I hear one of these stories of an innocent child that's in a classroom, and in the last moments of their lives, I can't imagine how scared they were, and they weren't there with their family, and that's it's really sad. And I think one of the most important parts of that interview to me, excuse me, is when Greg Abbott decided to meet with the family members, and it took him 4 months to do so, and he decided to talk about the border, according to Brett. And then Brett said that he didn't even know their names. Listen, I do a radio show. I know their names. And Uzziah just happens to be one of 22 of them that lost their lives. And the fact that he couldn't name one of them and he wanted to talk about the border goes to show you how despicable that man is, Greg Abbott. He is a despicable human being. And yes, I have hatred for him because I think he's an awful human being with no empathy. And he wanted to talk about the border. And then when Brett told him, hey, wasn't an illegal that did this to my son, he ignored it. Because that's what MAGA Republicans do. They want to blame everything on undocumented immigrants. This was not an undocumented immigrant. This was a deranged 18-year-old who, at the age of 18, the day he turned 18, went into a store and bought thousands of rounds of ammunition and weapons and massacred innocent children. But Abbott has no solutions because he doesn't care. It's not that he can't come up with solutions. It's that he doesn't care. When are you guys going to wake up and smell the coffee? These MAGA Republicans don't care. They don't care about children. They don't care about loss of life. They certainly don't care about anything but getting brown people out of the country. And when are all of you going to wake up and figure this out? And I am not going to sit here and say that Democrats are perfect, but you're damn right. When it comes to all the violence in this country, when it comes to weapons, they care and they want to do something about it. And again, my thoughts go out to really anybody who has been the victim of any type of violence, particularly when when a weapon is involved, and all those poor parents in Uvalde. Brett is such a wonderful man, and his wife, Nikki, they're just wonderful people. And I wish Uzziah, Garcia, and all those innocent other souls were still here today. And as we know, there are 20 others that have lost their lives that day and other families that are still grieving that will never get over something like that. You never get over something like that.